Hello, and welcome back to the More Than Mindset Show, another interview today. So I've made the decision that after the 300th episode that I would start doing more interviews, bringing in mind, body, energy healing practitioners. And I met Faith this weekend and I loved what she was doing. And so I asked her to come on the show. I said, come and tell me your story. How did you get here? And I have to tell you, by the way, I still feel super calm. And I have a EMF meter, and so I checked it and I am just like super level still. So it was really interesting. We're playing with that today. So I can introduce you, but I think I'd rather you introduce yourself. Does that sound good to you?
Sure.
Tell us who you are.
My name is Faith Joubert, and I am currently in Covington, Louisiana, a native of Louisiana, like Kim. And I've been living here for about 30 years now. I am a recently retired physician, actually 11 months today. That's after about 30 years of practice.
Wow.
My specialty was infectious diseases. And now I'm one of the owners of an energy healing center, a bioscalar energy healing center called Healthy Body, Healthy Soul here in Covington.
So not even a year.
Not even a year.
Wow, I didn't realize that. I've had like a few surgeries and stuff, and it takes a year to make adjustments, right? And even grief and deaths and change takes a year. You're not even at a year yet. So how's that going?
Yeah. I gave my practice a year's notice. And so I started saying goodbye to my patients, my longtime patients, well in advance of 6 months. So I sort of did my grieving gradually and got to say goodbye to everybody, sometimes twice, before my last day. I thought that on my last day, I would, have a meltdown. But the day before my last day, I was on call the weekend, so my last day was Sunday. The day before, I was walking through the hospital, and I just got this voice in my head said, "Your work here is done." And that was a tremendous relief. The next day, at the end of my when I finished all my duties for the day, I went to the parking lot. I cut the nameplate off my parking space, threw it in the back seat, and said, "Where are we going out to dinner?" And haven't looked back very much. Made a few visits, but things change so quickly. And I'm where I'm supposed to be.
I love that you gave yourself that time. I did that with nails whenever I've done a lot of iterations in my business, but nails was my love. Like to be able to visit with somebody every week or every other week, like for years, I really had amazing relationships. It was so hard for me to let go of. And I remember getting to the end, I had one client left and she said, "I know I'm the only one. You can let me go." It was, 20 years,
Yes.
So I love that you did that. So it wasn't this like cold cut, kind of like
I did it more for my patients than for myself, because some of the folks I'd cared for were like yourself, over 20 years. A few 29 years I had been their HIV doctor. So that's some really long relationships, and some have become my friends now. I can get past that doctor-patient boundary and have some of these lovely people in my life, which is a tremendous blessing.
Nice. So I have a couple of questions so you just tell me if I go too deep, too far, and you don't want to talk about this, but we had a great conversation on Sunday, and I talked about this on the podcast recently, how I didn't know why I was going to that event, because I know everything that Caitlin does. I'm her coach. I've been working with her, training her. I know Ayurveda. I was like, I don't know why I feel like I need to go to this, and drive 3 hours. It's ridiculous. And then ended up getting the treat to be able to stay and like reap the benefits of following my gut. That is what it feels like, it's been such a blessing to meet you, to get to know the center and your mission. I'm inspired. I just want to hit the road and go to all of these places and bring everyone on the show. I'm super excited. And whenever we'd love talking, what's that?
We'd love to have everybody that you're thinking of. Yeah, twice, 3 times maybe.
Well, as we were talking, I was realizing the struggle or the resistance that we face when we're bringing natural healing to the world. But to hear it from your perspective And I've been on the other side of business and having my own business. So no one ever gave me a paycheck for going to work. So no one ever gave me the position, right? I had to go through all the marketing and the learning and the felling and the falling and the like all of that stuff. But coming from medical, it's kind of like a buy-in. It's already there. It's already your marketing has already been done for you. And
Right.
so
The demand is nonstop.
yeah, I've worked with lots of practitioners, trained them to be coaches, and they are all surprised by how hard it is to go get your own paycheck. They're like,
Yeah.
what? Because you got the badge, man. I used to say, those people who got the Jesus robe, the pastors and the priests and the badge, the world's like, yes, just tell me what to do. And us little people who are doing the same thing that you're doing, right? We're just doing it from a different perspective. It's that credibility,
Yeah.
and I know you
The
worked for it, and it's not
the
even.
dues you pay are in college and medical school and the years of training before you get to walk into the office with your name on the door with the appointment book full and so forth. So there are dues to pay ahead of that.
For sure, for sure. So anyway, that led me to what we were talking about, which was the expectation when you open the clinic and you have found the gem of healing, and like you're just so convicted and so certain you did your due diligence. You traveled to several, I'll say you just covered the US and got your own evidence and did your own research, and then you build it and they will come, right? That's what they tell us.
That's something we try to manifest for sure.
Yeah.
I was a very much by the book kind of doctor until COVID. I did not have any dream, any vision, anything remotely compared to what we are doing now. I thought that perhaps as I neared retirement age that I would become a hospice doctor, and because my heart was in that as well. But COVID came and just blew my mind right open. And so we never even heard of the Energy Enhancement System, which is the technology that we have here, until May 27th of 22. And just so happened to be watching an interview, a podcast between Jason Shurka, an incredible young man who began a company called Unified, UNIFYD, which was a social media platform and then a TV streaming platform. And he interviewed the inventor of the Energy Enhancement System. Her name is Dr. Sandra Rose Michael. And people were watching that interview, just got blown away by the description of it. It's actually a very technical interview, but the gist of it was that we all have the ability to heal ourselves. This is not something that we are encouraged to think about, to process. We are in a model of Western medicine where when you feel bad, you go to the doctor, they listen to you briefly. Sometimes they examine you, sometimes not, which is that's just a horror to me. And they order some tests, and then they try to give you something to counteract what you're feeling, if they can figure it out, which oftentimes they can't. We are not empowered. We give away our own decision-making ability, our own free will. We let the authority figure make all the choices for us, or many, many people do. And the idea that the human body is an energetic creation, not just a flesh and bones sort of thing, but an energetic creation that responds to energy, both negative and positive, is just something that the public really does not generally have an appreciation of. So hearing about that technology, and Jason Shurka, spoke in that interview that he was creating another arm of Unified called Unified Healing, with the express purpose to serve as an infrastructure and a support system for people who wanted to open up a center with the Energy Enhancement System. And after that, at the time of that interview, Daphne, my spouse, and I looked at one another and said, are we supposed to do this? we could feel that little knock that God sent, gives you and say, you could do this, you could do this. And it kind of would give you a way out too of what your career is like now. And we put on the brakes really hard because, gigantic changes in your life, you tend to do that. So we said, well, we've got to learn a lot more. We spent years now being fooled by what medicine really was and what science had become. And the last thing we wanted to do was be fooled again. And so we read everything that we could about it. And then we took a trip. You alluded to that we took a trip to visit 3 centers with EESystem so we could feel it for ourselves and talk to people about how they ran their centers. And we actually got to meet Dr. at her home in Las Vegas. And when we came back after spending time in the EESystem ourselves, we recognized what changes had occurred in our own bodies, in our own minds. And we couldn't deny that it was real. And then we heard the knock again. So are you going to do it? And we said, yes. And
Yes,
so
sir.
we got to work.
So were you already considering leaving medicine, or had you just awakened to, you use these words, what medicine was and what science had become?
Yeah. I was tired before COVID. Infectious disease is not a very prevalent specialty. So one person can get spread kind of thin over, several hospitals. I was pretty tired before that. I thought that I would actually work until I was 67. I'm 61 now. But I was hoping to spend the latter years in a less stressful, giving comfort sort of specialty like hospice, palliative care. I didn't see myself leaving medicine until I was 67. It all has to do with getting insurance and Medicare and all that stuff. But when this came up, it was like, if I call you, you must come, in this same sort of vernacular. And we just felt like it was something we were called to do. So, you have to change your mindset. You have to change what you thought your future was going to be like to come in alignment with what you are called to do. So we just started, making plans. Daphne did most of the legwork, finding a place to lease and things like that. And then we had to renovate the building that we found. That was a massive undertaking, but she had experience doing that. So I got to start, part-time when we opened, which was May of last year, 23, and then got to come full-time in January after I left the parking lot.
The call, I call it the summoning. You just know, it's like I was summoned to Covington. I was like, whatever.
Yeah.
So you just don't fight it. You knew, right? You start to recognize that, what it feels like. I'm curious if you had even questioned, even in your mind, maybe not even saying it out loud, but if there was a moment of, but what would I do? Did you have any of that preface to seeing that on that interview?
But what would I do?
Did you, because you were already starting, you saw what was going on. You were already thinking you were not, there was like, okay, I thought I was going to be staying until 67. So you were already realizing, shoot, I'm not. I'm just curious from your thought process, how, like, I think we asked for this. Like it's like it miraculously showed up in an interview, but I'm curious if you had a moment of what would I do? Was there any indication of that at all? Or was it, you saw it and just knew?
Denial is the strongest defense mechanism, right? So you think you're hearing a call to do something different than what you have planned to do. And you're like, did I hear you correctly? Is that really what you want me to do? You want me to, leave my practice early and launch something, completely out of our, realm of being in our medical practice. I was not one of the doctors who ran the business. There were those who made the decisions about contracts and, hiring and firing and things like that. That's not something I ever wanted to really participate in. And there were others in our group that were happy doing that part. So my part was always the hands-on, face-to-face part of medicine. So running a business was largely foreign to me. You learn all the things you don't know, all the things that your administrator knows, and your tax accountant knows, and your insurance negotiators know, and your IT people know, and they're all your local regulations, and the fire marshal. What about the fire marshal? Oh my God, we can't get a certificate of occupancy until we get the fire marshal approval, and what if we can't get the occupancy, and that's the tremendous amount of anxiety about all those foreign things. Having confidence in the technology was one part. Doing the nuts and bolts of running a business was completely out of our comfort zone as well. Fortunately, Daphne, carried the ball on that, and I'm so proud of her for doing that. It took me months to figure out what my role was going to be here. Like at the end of my medical practice, and after COVID, when I had become so disgusted, I really stopped enjoying the science of medicine. And I only got satisfaction out of the holding of the hands, the listening, the comforting. And well, now I can do that. I can do that every day. I can do that to every person that walks through that door, because I don't have to heal them now. I'm not responsible for it. They can heal themselves. All I have to do is provide this environment, this opportunity for them, access to this, and they do it for themselves. And that's twice as beautiful and a lot less stressful. We get to see the healing happening.
Do you want to talk about you said you had become disgusted?
Well,
was it a distress? Was it what had happened?
In medicine and in science, you were taught that science is pure, that if you wanted to do research, that you had a hypothesis, you designed a study an experiment to test your hypothesis. And when you generated the results, then you were honest and transparent about the results. But it became, unfortunately, extremely evident, well, maybe I should say fortunately, extremely evident that the science surrounding COVID and the vaccine was anything but that. And the people, the thought leaders that we were accustomed to trusting, were failing us incredibly. And I just lost trust in what we were being told was the truth, because in fact it was not the truth. And the truth was withheld for the benefit of the people who pay for the studies. And that was just a knife in my heart. So then I began to question everything. Well, what else have you lied to us about? And what other truths have you hidden for your own agenda? And so it was really a very sad time, more sad than angry, and scary, because here I had spent 29, 30 years caring for people and guiding them and being their partner in decision making based on the things that I had learned. And what if those things that I had learned were not true and I led them in the wrong direction? I felt tremendous, remorse and fear that I had harmed anyone, that I had given them the wrong advice, but also sad that I no longer could trust what I was being told. All I could trust was my experience, what I had witnessed with my own eyes, at the bedside. So that was a very big awakening.
Yeah. Did you go through a denial phase? Like, did it take some time to, like, what did I just see? Like, how was that process for you when you were not looking for this? You were not one of these conspiracy theorists. You were never turning your back on it. You were not looking for any of this. So
No.
when you started to see and hear, or however you started to find out what was happening.
It took more than one post. It took more than one article. It took more than one podcast. It took, I had to gather a little evidence before I really could turn my back on it. But fairly quickly, our first case of COVID at my hospital was March 6th of 20. And had access to the vaccine December of 20. and January of 21. That's when all of us healthcare professionals who were unfortunately, some willing, some were forced to take the vaccine or lose their job, December 20 and January of 21. So March of 21 is when I started hearing about what the truth was about the vaccine, all the harm that was being experienced but not being reported. And then started to look more closely national database that records vaccine related injury. And the numbers were just stacking and stacking and stacking, and nobody was talking about it, at least in the mainstream. And when I started to see those numbers build up and recognize that what is reported is actually just a fraction of what actually occurs, and that nobody was being honest in, at the CDC, at the NIH, they were just withholding all this for their own agenda. And that was the beginning of, my mental, emotional separation from mainstream medicine. There were things that could help people, but the mainstream did not want us to use them, like hydroxychloroquine, like ivermectin. And it just built and built and built. And then you start to separate from your colleagues because they don't want to hear it. Mm-hmm. They don't want to believe it. So then, before long, you're the pariah, you're the one who's gone, off the deep end, the conspiracy theorists and all that. But lo and behold, it's true. So I gradually separated. And when we started working on this business, and I started to talk to my colleagues, people that have respected me for decades, just started to sort of create a little space, nod gently and with courtesy, and just, oh, that's interesting. We're gonna have to check that out, and never seen their face here. So it's a pretty big transition.
For sure. That's, the disheartenment of the disruption of the truth, first of all, that when you're so committed to something, to an ideal of something that you had no reason to question. So you started seeing it circulate first.
Right.
This is like anything else. It takes several times, even like in the sales process, it's 8 to 12 times. You got to hear and see and hear and see and hear and see.
Right.
But what's your take? Oh, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, most doctors don't get their medical information from social media, but the social media is where you go to look for alternative stuff. And, I was not on Facebook. I was not on any of these other things until that time. And then I started looking at people who were posting things that, like there's a Doctors Alliance. There's one called the Critical Care Alliance. I'm blanking on the name, but it's a national organization tens of thousands of doctors belong to that began during the COVID epidemic to discuss and disclose things that were working that were not mainstream. And of course they all get called quacks and things like that. And 10 years ago I would have too, but this just blew my mind wide open.
That's the part. You said in 10 years ago, I would have too. And that was what I was segueing into the question about, and this is just going to be an opinion because I don't know the answer to this either. But I play with it is, what do you think determines, is it flexibility of the mind? Is it willingness to question? Because it's so opposite, right? These two worlds are so opposite. Like I am completely committed here, and then I'm completely committed here. And I would love to see a bridge between the two worlds, between medicine and holistic, between natural and I would hope to see that before my lifetime ends, But what do you think is required, or what makes up the difference in someone that's willing to cross that bridge or willing to even go and peek on the other side and come back? Like, do you have any idea what for someone who was
Well, I would
never had a
I
reason to
would
get on
think
the bridge?
I would think a large portion of people who non-physicians who explore alternative health is because mainstream medicine has failed them in some way.
Mm-hmm.
They had symptoms, they had a syndrome that nobody could understand or explain or mitigate. And they said, these people are not helping me. I'm going to look for on my own. There are some physicians, functional medicine physicians, holistic physicians, some of which are MDs first and have the same training that every other medical school student gets, and the same training that residents interns and residents get, and then open their mind to things that are alternative. I think people start off being open-minded or not. And seeing my colleagues not be particularly open to this made me realize that those who are educated have the hardest time accepting that they've been fooled.
Mm-hmm.
You have to let your ego down a bit to accept that all the things that you've stood in front of groups or patients or your colleagues and said was the truth from a medical standpoint. You have to lay your ego down to accept that you might have been fooled.
Do you think that creates
Big
a
Pharma
distrust in the individual? Like, does it create a distrust with self because you were fooled?
I think that if you're not particularly willing to accept that alternative medicine is respectable, that it's because you're stuck with I know what I know, what I know. I know what I was taught. I know what the books say. I'm going to follow the guidelines. I'm not going to deviate. This is the way it should be done. This is a standard of care. And if your loved one doesn't follow the book, then I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. But there is still an art to medicine, and part of it is being open-minded, and part of it is being your patient's advocate to continue to look for things that are out of the box. And some people do that more easily than others.
Because that's science, right? It's the art of discovery. Like it is the willingness to question and the what else, right?
Right. But if you find out that the drug company that paid for the study is hiding the truth, that the thing that you are encouraging people to put in their arm is not safe and not effective, then you have to come to grips with the untruth, and then you have to come to grips with your own responsibility. So that's, some just don't want to hear it. No, I'm not going to hear it. And fear is a great motivator.
Oh, for sure. For sure. In my experience in change work in these last 30 years, if it ain't personal, it probably ain't changing, because it's not personal. Like if it's not your child, your loved one, yourself,
right?
There's no motivator. I had a personal experience with my youngest kid when he took his vaccination at 8 weeks, and then we ended up in the hospital for months. And that's where I started. It's like I said, it has to be personal. I really think it has to be personal for myself too. I don't know, it was 12, 13 surgeries, 24 years of medication. I was forced to find something. It's kind of a mess. It's kind of a mess because I'm a respecter of medicine. You heard, I was talking to you about that. I was like, this is an innocent ignorance, like ignorance in the best way of the definition, in the positive light of the definition. Ignorance is an unknowing, mm-hmm. And it is very innocent. And I think, anything that we're at battle with, and, there's assumptions and there's unwillingness to open or to think or to consider, I guess would be the word, confront or consider. Those are conversational skill sets. Those are behavioral. Those are personal development issues.
And we're programmed. We're programmed ahead of time to believe certain things in a certain way, and we're manipulated. with fear. So it's been a tremendous, last 3 years, 4 years.
Is it hard to say that at one point, or you're just a truth seeker, and when you found it, there was conviction and no
My
anger or
conscience,
vengeance or bitterness? Like you're super clean about it.
well, my conscience is pretty active. When I found out that the vaccine was neither safe nor effective, I started begging my patients not to take them anymore and repenting of every other healthcare provider that I encouraged. That first year we saw so many people die. There was so much fear. We had so little to offer them. And, we really were sold based on what we were told by, Pfizer, Moderna, et cetera, that it was safe and effective. And then when my eyes were opened and we could see with our own eyes, in real time, that the vaccine wasn't preventing anything, I just started repenting. I asked forgiveness for all the people that I ever encouraged to take the vaccine. And I took care of immunocompromised people with AIDS and cancer and autoimmune diseases. And I begged them not to take it. But, it fell on mostly deaf ears because those ears were already clogged with fear. So, tremendous battle.
It's so interesting, the suggestibility and the authority. Well, even you were saying, like, as patients, we give that authority and that self-direction, we give that up. But you kind of alluded to it, not intentionally, but in the business side, because you gave that up because you didn't have to do it. You know what I'm saying? Like in the I just want to show up and serve. And someone took that authority of how that was going to look and what you were going to do in exchange for that and how that was going to be. So we all do it. It's so innocent. Authority is a big thing. We're taught to look for it. Someone has the rules. Someone has the answers. Maybe
Right.
it's Google. Maybe it's the principal. But somebody has it, right? And
Yeah, I mean, you grow up with authority figures since you're a child. Someone always knows more about something than you, and you're supposed to respect them and trust what they say. From our parents on up.
Yeah.
So it's hard when someone you trust, admire, respect gets knocked off the pedestal. You have to adjust. It's uncomfortable, and
Humble.
yeah.
I have a hard time. I hear this a lot about the agenda. And I mean, I guess I'm more innocent than I just really have a hard time believing that. But it's so evident. There's so much evidence, at the end, if you follow the trail, there's so much evidence. And
Right.
still, I can't say like I must not be a conspiracy theorist because it's not easy for me to buy. I still think people are innately good. And people are innately
Right.
serve the us, the we, not the, but it's not what I'm hearing over and over and
It's
over
much
and over.
it's much easier to believe that people are honest than that people are nefarious. That there's that much evil in the world,
Maybe it's
that
to fool
people would
ourselves so
actually.
that we feel safe.
Absolutely, it's easier. We're also too busy. We're too busy to stop and think. We're too rushed. We don't look inside. We just keep rolling from one checkbox on our to-do list to the next one. We don't stop and look inside and try to exercise our own intuition. It's too easy to believe what you read rather than stopping and thinking about what feels true to you on the inside. That's also been a tremendous lesson for me.
And yet here we are. So what was the selling point on the EE system? Like what was the nudge? What was the knock that you guys had to look at each other and say, is this us? Is this a call? Like, was it in the actual what you heard, or was it when you went to visit and then what you experienced?
I think both. There are a ton of energy medicine devices and things out there, more than I could have ever imagined. The science of it was important. You can light a sage stick and move it all over a room and say the room is clear. But that's different than being able to say, we measured the millivoltage of the cells before and after time in the energy enhancement system, and this is what happened. And here I have 300 testimonials of people who have spent time in it and what healing experiences they've had. And, you can look at the research and it just becomes something that is more concrete, less something imagined or woo-woo, though I'm now officially a woo-woo. But the EESystem and Dr. Michael's explanation of it and the creation of it was very much a technical thing. And that was very important to me to understand it from a biophysics standpoint. But then to experience it myself, it was absolutely no question that I was different after having spent time there. And I can say it, when I talk about what people have experienced in energy enhancement systems now all over the world, in the last 2.5 years, there are now 500 places in 60 countries. And on Unified Healing, they have racked up hundreds of testimonials. But when I talk to people about it, I say, with my own eyes, I have seen, stroke symptoms diminish overnight, Parkinson's symptoms diminish, eyesight improve, macular degeneration arrested or resolved, hearing loss restored, tinnitus gone away, blood pressure, heart pumping function, oxygen levels, blood sugar, people's autoimmune symptoms go away, psoriasis, big patches and horrible psoriasis, psoriatic arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, every manner of pain, whether it's I just hurt myself pain, to my back's hurt for 30 years pain, to my feet tingle and burn from diabetes pain, from shingles pain, to the pain of metastatic cancer. I have seen with my own eyes people who say, my pain is better, my pain is gone. It's just so tactile, so real. So when I explain it to people, I tell them what I have seen with my own eyes. And I pray that I have their trust, because it's something that we all would benefit from, whether we're sick or not, I tell people, if you feel good, come here, you're going to feel great, but if you're suffering, if you're sick, if you're in pain, if you're sad, we've seen all manner of, psychological things improve, depression, anxiety, personality issues, PTSD, ADHD, autism, we've seen improve. And we are just so grateful. A man came here yesterday, a veteran who's been suffering with horrible back pain for a very long time. He's disabled from it. And he says, man, I hope this helps me. He spent 4 hours in the room. We give 4 hours free to veterans each month. He came out 2 or 3 times to go to the restroom. He came out at the end. He said, I feel so great. He said, I can't stop smiling. Tears came to his eyes. Tears came to my eyes. I'm having chills now. Yeah. He said, I feel so great. I'm so glad I came, and that is just, those are the words I live for. And it's just real. There's no placebo effect. Jason Shirka, he's a skeptic too. He said, my family went to an EESystem before I heard of, before I undertook this project. He said, and I was skeptical. Oh, there must be a placebo effect. Well, they had taken their dog who had this big old cyst on its neck, and dogs don't have biases and don't have, they aren't subject to placebo effect. The dog spent 2 or 3 overnights in an EESystem and it went away. And he was convinced. He said, I know the dog's not faking it. I know the dog's psyche is not making this happen. And so for him, that was real. And what I felt for myself was real. And fortunately, about every day we're hearing somebody's story that reinforces that. So it's very rewarding.
Preventative is you'll never see what you escaped.
It's hard to detect the absence of something.
Yeah. I don't know why I was summoned to there, but I wouldn't argue with there's something that needed to get pinged or something. Like I don't know other than that, but I probably just me on the pod. I am super calm. I'm sure my clients are like, what is going on? Like I don't have didn't feel like I was hyped up before. I just noticed that everything has just become more
I
calm.
noticed that as well. When after our trip, I was sleeping well. I was just chill. It was different for me.
I told Mallory today, I was like, what are we going to do with me? Because I'm one hell of a marketer when I'm fired up.
Well, it doesn't take out the good. It
No,
doesn't
but I
take out
don't
the
have
good.
that. It's like there was this, I don't know, it's just not there. Super calm. So I'm curious because it's just been a few days, and I know this
Yeah,
is, and we can kind of talk about that. So like there are people who are going to hear this that have no idea what we're talking about. So
right.
first, it's just the name of it, and then in very simple terms, what
Okay.
what would be the advantage and benefit? So the feature is the machine, it's the room, it's coming into this
Right.
this environment, but what does the
Yeah.
environment do?
So the energy enhancement system is a combination of two things. One is a production of scalar waves. We are accustomed to Hertzian energy. Everything that's electronic runs on Hertzian energy. An outlet is 60 hertz. Radio station broadcasts in megahertz. That's a word that people have heard before. Scalar energy is different than Hertzian energy. Many people that are somewhat familiar with energy healing or the energy modalities speak of good frequencies and bad frequencies. Well, the vast majority of Hertzian frequencies are bad. They're stressful to us. It's like radiation. It really is radiation. Scalar energy, on the other hand, is nourishing to us. We are made of energy with 100% energy. Many people can identify with the process of taking an EKG, where they put the little pads on you and they make a tracing, a measurement of the electricity flowing through your heart. Every cell has that electricity. Every cell speaks to the next cell by means of an electrical message. And if you look at our cells as being like their very own battery, we have 50 trillion batteries, but the battery can be full. And when the battery is full, we can execute all those God-given instructions about how to heal. All of this information is in our DNA. We can heal simple things. You cut your finger, it heals. You don't have to do anything to it. If you break a bone, your body knows how to knit the pieces together. But yet we get sick and we have a hard time recovering from insults and injuries. So when our battery is full, we're actually able to execute those instructions. But most of us are running around about half full. And you need half full just to replace the things that are naturally wearing out. We have to replace the cells that line our mouth. We have to replace our blood cells. We have to replace our liver cells, our brain cells, our skin cells. We have to replace them regularly. But if we don't have enough energy to do that, then we age and we become ill. And the lower your charge, the more likely you are to become ill and to stay ill. The lowest charge is being associated with cancer. So in the environment that we live in now, we're being bombarded by all this harmful radiation that brings down our natural charge. We're being poisoned by things that are being sprayed in the sky and put in the water and injected into the livestock. And look at look at the ingredient list on half of the things you pick up at the grocery store. It's all this is harmful and suppresses what is natural in us. We were not meant to run this way. We were meant to run full and healthy and live a long, happy life. So the scalar wave serves to increase the electrical charge of our cells. It goes from wherever you start, however low it is, to full within about an hour. In the room, all of these scalar generators are set up opposing one another perfectly. They're perfectly aligned across the room. So when the scalar waves are generated, they collide in the center of the room perfectly and create a field, a space that is saturated with that energy. The other half of the energy enhancement system is called biophotons. This is biologically active and beneficial light and color. Because we are energy, light is energy, we are light. If you had the right camera, you could measure the light energy coming from the human body. We have an energy field around us. Many people are familiar with the word aura, but the shape of our energy field is a beautiful, it's called a toroid. It's like a big donut inside and out. The shape of the energy field in the scalar room is the same shape. And the light and color interact with our light, our color. Many people are familiar with the word chakra. So we have energy centers. They all have a frequency. Colors have a frequency. They all have their own color. So in that space, the light, the color, the scalar waves contribute to this beautiful field. People go into the room. We have reclining chairs. The lights are dim. The music is soft. You set your intention. You tell your body what you want it to heal right now. And you close your eyes. And while you are in that space, your cellular charge is increased up to that optimum level. It takes about an hour. And then usually people stay longer than that. So in the succeeding time, your body can begin to use that energy. And I would say that 99.9% of people walk out of that room with a smile. Some are saying, wow. Some are saying, I'm buzzing, I'm tingling. I feel peaceful and happy. Some say, man, that it really, heated up. The intensity on my bad shoulder really got big. I thought I was going to have to leave the room, but now it's so much better. So much better than when I walked in. Some people say, I don't hear that buzzing in my ear anymore that I've heard for 20 years. And the people's sleep almost uniformly improves. I don't know if you experienced that, but that and pain seem to respond the quickest. The more serious their health challenges are, the more time it takes to heal. If it took 20 years to break down, that system, it's going to take a little time to build it up. But each time a person comes, their ability to use the energy and hold the energy from visit to visit, each time they come, it adds up. It's not like a massage where you feel great for 3 hours and then you start to feel tense again. When you leave, you're holding that charge. Your battery's full. It doesn't go to zero just because you leave the building. You hold that charge. And so while your charge is up, you are continuously working on things that your body wants to work on. It wants to replace the worn out cells. It wants to repair the damage done. It wants to balance things that are out of balance. It wants to, the right left brain balance is improved. Your mitochondria work faster. You repair your DNA better. I mean, the myriad of things that's going on after you leave is just as beautiful as the time in the room. So people experience the benefits not just while they're here, but for days and days after.
So what I'm hearing is the time, at least that first hour, is the battery's now charged. So just like we charge our cell phones, okay, it's charged.
Yes.
Anything after that, like because it's charged, now its natural ability to heal is active. Whereas before, that natural ability to heal is trying to just get to the survive because it's trying to refuel itself. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's exactly right.
I speak my
Your
own
cells say, now we can get to work. Boy, we've got a lot of work to do.
Is this why they're so tired? Because they're trying to summon this energy of this natural healing energy, but they're so depleted and low. People are there's so much overconsumption and exhaustion. And, Caitlin and I were talking about this today. We recorded a podcast, and everything that you're taking in, what you see, what you hear, what you smell. And when you're scrolling on social media, you're taking in everything in that box. The music, the sound, what you're reading, the person, the other person, the other, but and then you scroll to the next and again and again and again. And it's just an overconsumption and oversaturation.
Absolutely. And people, and most people don't recognize that the light coming from your computer screen or your cell phone, the blue light is very disturbing to your circadian rhythm, your day and night cycles, your natural day and night cycles. How many people look at their cell phone until right before they turn out the light to go to sleep? And so your sleep is disturbed. It's not restorative, and you don't feel rested when you get up. And then you start pounding yourself with this energy drink and that coffee, and your body doesn't get what it needs. And so much of what it needs is just the right kind and amount of energy.
Well, and staying filled up. Recharge. All right. I hope that was a great explanation to everyone that is listening. We have people chiming in from all over the world, literally. So they may have this in their area, or I want to do an overnighter. So I'm kind of like taking the show on the road, and we'll be doing this, I'll call it a tour, but it's basically we coming in and teaching about the mind body disconnection and integration. And I was like, Caitlin, we could do it. I can do that in the area, like in Covington or New Orleans, and then just take, I think it's 8 is the max. We just take a
Hmm.
handful that would actually want to sleep there instead of sleep at a hotel. And
Well, we can try to work it out that you do your program here,
in the
but
light,
whatever
in in
whatever
the
you'd like. Yeah.
yeah, so that would be great too. So how many people do, so if somebody wanted to host an event and go and teach like what I'm saying, how
Hmm.
many people could you fit in that room? So if somebody's listening to this, that is a coach that travels and teaches and does
Yeah.
stuff that I do.
Depending on how you want the chairs arranged, we can in classrooms seating style, we can fit about 20 to 21 people reasonably comfortably.
So this is an invitation if anyone is listening to this and you're looking for an area to host an event, you would actually be able to host, you can go up to 2 hours and they could actually get treatment while they're receiving what you're
Right.
teaching.
I mean, obviously, we would be most open to people who are in alignment with us. You know, healthy body, healthy soul. So we focus on things that are good for your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health, your spiritual health. Those are the things, and what you're describing is certainly in alignment with that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure no one else is listening to this. We start off with connecting spirituality and success, right? The hardest things to talk about, and just integrating all parts. You know, my new word is totality, and is the whole and sum of all that is, ever was, be. It all already is, like you said, it's already in us. It's just that we're
Yeah.
so low, our battery is so low, we can't summon it to come and help us. So when we can fill it back,
Right.
then it puts it back into healing mode. How often does
Absolutely.
someone, so if someone doesn't have any physical issues, any primary concerns or issues, like I don't have any symptoms or pain or anything. So what would be the recommended amount? Like, would they go once a month? Would they go every
Mhm.
week? Or would it be one
Mhm.
overnight or every quarter? What's
Yeah.
the
So there are no recipes. The one thing that Dr. Michael says is that there is no too much, but there are no recipes for a person's healing. Everybody's going to go at a different pace. Some people are limited by transportation. Some people are limited by finances. Some people are limited by opportunity. You know, mothers of children, et cetera, have tremendous, responsibilities. Some people have to drive a long way.
like me?
So the way, right. And overnights are great for people who have to drive a long way or people who don't have time during the day. For your audience who would like to search out an energy enhancement center near them, unified UNIFYD healing.com, you can find a center anywhere in the world. 60 countries now. And we are here in Covington, Louisiana with a 24 unit system.
And that's important to know, right? Because how would you, like if someone has a 12 unit, someone has a 24 unit, how would you describe
Mhm.
what is the difference? If they're looking, they're like, oh, wait, this is different. How would,
Well,
is it
a 24
square
unit
footage?
is you are limited by how small the room is. A twin you can't go smaller than 10 by 10 with a standard with an installed unit system. The system we have can actually service a 100 by 100 foot room. Our room is 16 by 32, but it could actually service a much bigger space. The number of units is reflected in the power of the system. A 24 unit is stronger, quote unquote, than a 12 unit, but that doesn't mean that people can't achieve healing goals in a 12 unit. So I wouldn't turn my nose at one if that one is closest to you. But
My internet went out and I missed the last 30 seconds.
so can you hear me now?
I can. Sorry about that.
Okay. So a 24 unit system is stronger, quote unquote, than a 12 unit system. But that doesn't mean that healing can't occur for someone in a 12 unit system. As the numbers increase, 12, 24, 48, there are 48 unit systems. There are actually a couple that are in the 50s, like 56. I think as you get really high numbers, that the addition, the benefit is not as great. but people can achieve wonderful, beautiful things in an 8-unit system or a 12-unit system. So if those are what's closest to you, then I would access what's most convenient for you.
Is it like the super phone charger compared to the regular box? Like, does it charge faster, quicker? What's the difference? Like if I
The
had
technical,
the box
I don't know if I'm going to
compared to
get the technical part accurate. So I think that it probably happens in the same amount of time. But that might be a more technical question that I don't feel confident answering. I think that you can, between a 12 and a 24, I think that people can achieve their health goals in a 12-unit system too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm just curious. And those were the questions that
We
came.
picked
I wrote, does it
the
charge
reason we
quicker?
picked 24. The reason we picked 24 is Dr. Michael said that she felt that 24 units was the most coherent number with our DNA. And she felt like that the field was smoothest at that number. So that's why we chose that number. Probably there are more 24 unit systems than any other size.
Interesting. This is cool stuff. Is there anything I did not ask you that you want to share? Because we're going to put your contact information. I'll have this, at the bottom of the podcast. We'll also have it on YouTube. So if you ever want to send clients to come and hear about what we talked about, or someone wants to find you, we'll put a link of how to contact you. Is there anything that
I don't know if it cut off when I mentioned unifiedhealing.com. You can find a center anywhere in the world. If you're in Louisiana or you're in the Gulf South, we would love to have you visit here at Healthy Body, Healthy Soul in Covington, Louisiana. Our website is healthybodyhealthysoul-la.com. And we're on Facebook and Instagram. We have an app, but we'd invite everyone to take a look at our website. We have our own testimonials from our own clients here. We have links to the research of EESystem and links to unified healing. We have lots of events that people can come to in the evening in addition to the regular daytime sessions. People can spend the night. That's a really fun and beautiful thing. We are open 6 days a week, and we run specials and things like Veterans Day. Veterans Day is next Monday. All veterans are welcome to come here for free all day. So lots of things going on here. We're trying to raise as much awareness as we can. It feels uphill sometimes, but we are encouraged every day, and we have a chair that's waiting for you.
We have a chair that's waiting for you. I took a bed. I'm not leaving. What are you talking about? I love the idea that you get the double whammy, because you go to an event there and you get the healing at the same time. That was really cool. Whenever, Caitlin was presenting. So that is my invitation, is I'm sending out to anyone who's interested in doing an event that wants to present, because that's my world and my clients. I train coaches and work with practitioners. You were talking earlier about the conviction of, or the recognition of something. And, for a couple of years, I was working with quite a few pharmacists that were dealing with, oh my God, what are we doing? Like, I don't want to do this. And, people were coming in and they were so afraid, and they were having to do this. And that's what led them to seek something else. Was like, really,
right.
We're living in a very interesting time where your livelihood is, it's up for question, very scary stuff. So I love that you have an alternative.
Some of those mandates are getting turned around right now. In New York, for instance, those mandates, people are being compensated. So that's just the tip of the iceberg that's coming.
Yeah, I think this mandatory vaccination in general is going to be, with this term coming, like what's going on, I think that is going to be, a lot of that's going to be reconsidered. So I think it's going to be interesting times. People taking authority of their health. I love being able to bring people on the show that have things like this that are going on, because that's, for me, it is about awareness. We can't make informed decisions without the correct information, period.
Right. And we haven't been informed. Yeah. That's where the lack has been.
Yeah. It's incorrect data and misinformation that is leading most of what all of us know, because
we can't.
It's innocent. I have so much compassion. It's innocence. I'm not angry. There was a time where I was disappointed about the resistance, offering what we're calling alternative, but it's actually just complementary and supportive, for healing naturally. And I felt like I was up against the world for so long. I kind of threw in the hat, like, screw all of this. I'll never be able to do this alone. I can't, people don't stick it out because they face the resistance at home in their families. We have divided families. We have divided families.
Absolutely. Absolutely. People not sharing holidays because some people got the shot and some people didn't. Yeah, it's very important.
So that is what we're up against. So let's get more of this going. Thank you very much for coming on. And
you're welcome. If I may say one more thing, the reason that we chose the name Healthy Body, Healthy Soul is because we were made perfectly. And when we realize through our exposure to energy healing, through the Energy Enhancement System, that we are actually capable of healing ourselves, then we have to give gratitude to the one who created us. So you have my gratitude for having me as your guest, and I look forward to your next visit.
I will be there.